Iran stands firm. Enrichment will continue. Sanctions be damned. But now, Europe's offering a deal. Delay the UN hammer if Tehran returns to talks. Behind closed doors in Istanbul, the future of Iran's nuclear program and the Middle East hangs in the balance. Will diplomacy buy time, or will pride fuel the next crisis? Western diplomats say Britain, France and Germany are prepared to delay the reimposition of UN sanctions on Iran, provided Tehran resumes nuclear talks with Washington and cooperates with international inspectors. The Financial Times reports that the offer is expected to be presented during Friday's meeting in Istanbul, marking the first direct talks between European and Iranian officials since the 12-day war between Iran and Israel. The delay would pause the so-called snapback mechanism, a provision of the 2015 nuclear agreement that could see sanctions reinstated as early as mid-September. Diplomats say any postponement would likely require a new UN Security Council resolution. Iran has intensified uranium enrichment and suspended cooperation with the International Atomic Energy Agency following recent strikes on its nuclear sites. While Tehran has since agreed to receive a technical team from the IAEA to discuss a new cooperation framework, Iranian officials maintain that this would exclude direct access to nuclear facilities. Foreign Minister Araghchi told state television that the upcoming talks with the E3, the UK, France and Germany are a continuation of previous negotiations and do not reflect a shift in Iran's position. He emphasized that uranium enrichment will continue and that Iran will not compromise on its nuclear rights.
The world should know after the war that Iran's position has not changed and is still strong. Uranium enrichment will continue, and we will not compromise on the Iranian nation's rights.
The E3 hopes to avert the snapback process by extending the deadline and encouraging renewed diplomacy. However, concerns remain over Iran's expanding nuclear activities, including the unresolved status of over 400 kilograms of highly enriched uranium. Iran maintains its program is for peaceful purposes, while the US insists enrichment must end before talks resume. Any progress now hinges on whether both sides can return to the negotiating table, and whether Europe can still play a meaningful role in reviving the deal. Iran is set to hold critical talks with France, Britain and Germany in Istanbul on July 25th, with Foreign Minister Araghchi reaffirming that Tehran will continue uranium enrichment and maintain its position on nuclear rights. Speaking to Iran's state media, Araghchi emphasized that the discussions are a continuation of earlier negotiations and do not signal any change in Iran's stance. He stated that Iran will firmly defend its right to peaceful nuclear energy, especially enrichment.
The discussions that will be held tomorrow are a continuation of previous talks. Our position is completely clear. The world must know that there has been no change in our position, and we continue to firmly and resolutely defend the rights of the Iranian people to peaceful nuclear energy, particularly enrichment.
The meeting with the European trio, collectively known as the E3, comes ahead of an end-of-August deadline set by the United States and its allies to either reach a new nuclear agreement or face the reimposition of full UN sanctions. Under the 2015 Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, any party to the deal can trigger the snapback mechanism if they believe Iran is not in compliance. European diplomats, according to Reuters, plan to propose a 6-month extension of the snapback deadline in exchange for specific Iranian commitments, including eventual talks with Washington and renewed cooperation with the International Atomic Energy Agency. Tehran, however, has suspended direct cooperation with the IAEA following US-Israeli airstrikes on nuclear facilities last month. Behrouz Kamalvandi, spokesperson for Iran's Atomic Energy Organization, acknowledged the damage but said the nuclear industry remains intact and will be rebuilt.
The nuclear industry in our country is firmly established. Pressure and attacks cannot uproot it. It will flourish again.
In an interview with Fox News earlier this week, Araghchi confirmed enrichment had paused due to the strikes, but emphasized it will resume. He noted the facilities were destroyed, but the program could recover thanks to retained scientific capacity.
We cannot give up enrichment. It is a question of national pride. Buildings can be rebuilt. Machines can be replaced. The people who made them are still here.
Talks in Istanbul follow a series of previous rounds in Geneva and New York. While Tehran says it remains open to dialogue, it insists that any new arrangement must respect its sovereign right to enrichment, an issue central to Iran's negotiating posture. Republican Congressman Darrell Issa has warned that any political transformation in Iran is unlikely to be peaceful, citing the regime's resolve to hold on to power. In an interview with Iran International, Issa said he fears that, unlike the Soviet Union, Iran's government will not collapse without violence. Representing a district in Southern California with a large Iranian-American population, Issa also criticized exiled opposition groups for lacking unity, which he described as a key obstacle to meaningful change.
The Soviet Union collapsed without a revolution. A transformation is possible, but in Iran, I fear change will be violent, and the current regime will not go quietly. They spend more time attacking each other than working together. That's a strategic failure. If they were united, I believe regime change would already be underway.
The comments come amid renewed calls for regime change following last month's 12-day conflict between Israel and Iran, which ended with US airstrikes on Iranian nuclear facilities. During the height of the conflict, President Donald Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu openly discussed the possibility of targeting Iran's supreme leader. Sebastian Gorka, a senior White House counterterrorism advisor, clarified that the administration is not pursuing military-led regime change, stating at a Washington event that the US hopes the Iranian people will bring about internal change.
We are not in the business of deploying the 82nd Airborne to do regime changes anywhere. We would like the people of Persia, including all the minorities in Persia, to eventually liberate themselves.
Issa also backed intensifying economic pressure on Tehran by targeting oil revenues and restricting trade partners such as China. He called for a return to Trump's maximum pressure strategy, arguing it remains the most effective tool to undermine the current regime.
Take those ships, empty them in friendly ports, and don't let them sail again. Cut off Iran's oil revenue and you'll cripple the regime. I don't want to deny China oil, but they shouldn't get it from Iran. We must make it very expensive for Iran to raise revenue for its oppressive regime. Our stealth capability is unmatched. If strikes are necessary, we don't need to hand over those weapons. We can do it ourselves, as President Trump demonstrated.
With diplomacy stalled and pressure mounting, Iran's future hinges on unity at home and unrelenting scrutiny from abroad.